All right, well, let's move on to Scarlet and Violet. All right, so Scarlet and Violet, we're ranking it
3 for me.
This
is
it
literally
has to go
my
to
list.
3.
Like, this is how my list looks.
And honestly, what I was gonna say is, for me, I think there's a tie between Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet. They offer different things. They're still core series. And I think, honestly, when I look at these two games, I think Gen 10 is going to be a fuse at the most. I think Gen 10 is going to have a creative vision. It's going to be polished. It's going to be pretty. But I do think it's going to lean more into the open world aspect and take a lot of the immersion, those immersive features that I like from Legends Arceus. Maybe not all of them, but like a lot of those immersive features. Like I like battling in the overworld with the Let's Go mechanic, right? I like the polish of a lot of the Pokemon in the game. I think the open world has potential. I think there's a lot of...
It does.
There's a lot of...
Absolutely.
It depends if they can actually execute it.
So my list would look like this, where Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet are tied for second. And then you kind of, everything else is underneath that. But if we got to put
Gen 10 should be a mix of the 3 of those top ones.
Yeah, like
that
this.
would be good.
That'd be crazy. But it's not going to be.
I don't think they're going to.
Because the Legends is going to be its own thing.
Yeah. I wish they would just add the catching into the main line, the main generation.
But
these games,
Scarlet and Violet, the game we've been playing for 2 years. You know, and if we talk about nostalgia, this is the game that we started this podcast playing. You know, we met each other. We got to know each other through the lead up, through the hype cycle, through the leak cycle, and that was a lot of fun. And it's been nice to just sit and marinate with this game. I played it hard. I'll say this. I think...
Hey, before you do, real quick, my nose is bleeding.
Man, okay.
Oh, man.
I have no idea why. Something bad is happening to me today.
We can stop. That's all good.
We've had a day.
I don't know how much anime y'all watch, but there's like a thing in anime where whenever a character is like in love with someone, their nose starts bleeding. So I think that the reason my nose started bleeding is because we had just finished talking about Legends Arceus, and I'm so in love with it that my nose bled. So yeah, that's the official conclusion for why my nose started bleeding.
All right, what was I going to say? I was going to say...
something profound.
Yeah, I think... Okay.
Profound, and I ruined it.
About Scarlet and Violet.
I think for me, Pokemon games have always been... and part of this is the fact that they're on Nintendo systems, have always been... I think against popular belief, they've always been well polished and secure, and there's a system. I could trust that the game will be reliable, right? And I think in this Switch era,
I agree with the second part, but not the first part. But yes, go on.
I think in this current era of Switch titles, or the Switch titles in general, we've seen the loss of agency in our gameplay, but we've also seen a dip in performance where never before have there been, since Generation 1, let's say, horrible game-breaking bugs, right? Maybe there's been one or two random ones in there, but I think with BDSP...
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the bugs in BDSP.
And with Scarlet and Violet, I think I think where I'm trying to get with all of this is that when I remember booting up Scarlet and Violet for the first time and actually feeling a little bit, and I said this I'm trying to be descriptive, I'm not like, right, but I actually felt a little offended. I was like thinking to myself, I don't want to transfer. This isn't a game. This game does not make me want to transfer my Pokemon from the last 20 years up into this engine, right? It doesn't. It's not intuitive. It's not pretty. It's not aspirational in the least, right? If Pokemon games are my access point into the universe, I'd rather stay in Sword and Shield. I'd rather stay in Legends Arceus. Scarlet and Violet, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet constantly break my immersion and actively encourage me to play another game.
I like that. I like what you're saying, because I feel kind of similar. And I'll say this, I remember when Sword and Shield was getting all the hate for how it looked, everyone was talking about that one tree. I remember the thing I always said I think it looks really good, but I am a Pokemon player. I'm not a video game player. So, if you're someone who's playing Breath of the Wild or whatever, then yeah, Sword and Shield looks pretty god-awful. Can you pause it right here, Dusty? Because this is relevant to what I'm saying. So, I always thought Sword and Shield looked fine. However, as a Pokemon player, I look at this and this looks bad. Look at those pumpkins. Look at that hedge there.
It looks bad. Everything looks bad.
It looks like a downgrade from what I've played, and what I've played is other Pokemon games.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that as you progress down the timeline, your quality's dropping?
Yeah.
You know?
I agree with all of that. I just want to disagree on one thing that Dusty said, which is like moving up your Pokemon, because the one thing in this image that looked good is the Pokemon. I think one of the best things about Scarlet and Violet is the Pokemon like textures and everything. Like seeing the new Pokemon or just any Pokemon we were talking about this on a live stream the other night, like they look so much better. They look incredible. And I think they just put a lot of focus into the Pokemon. But yeah, the world right there looks absolute trash.
But
like
yeah,
the background,
I think,
gosh. That's like N64.
It's horrible.
I think that's a really big part of it for me. It's like I love traveling. I love, going on vacation, who doesn't? But like Pokemon feels like that to me. I'm exploring a place. I'm traveling through a place. I can't afford a plane ticket to Spain, so this is what I've got.
Yeah, no, that's true.
This is not Spain.
And Soul, you make a good point, Soul.
Well,
that
definitely ain't Portugal. Ayo.
Yeah, you make a good point that the Pokemon do look good, but I would argue that only goes so far. I think it very much matters where, like, I think it very much. Oh my! I'm just noticing right now. Can you see this? Quaxley is on the screen, and instead of like looking up, his whole body has rotated backwards, so his feet are off the ground. Do you see that?
Yeah. Instead of going, he's going.
That's actually bizarre, like a cartoon character.
It's hard to look at him when Fuecoco's just like mouth open derp, though. I love him so much. He just.
Yeah, but I think it's like, again, my access point to this region, like you're saying, Lumi, is these games. And when these games are so bad, it's like the Pokemon can look good, and they do. And I've been going back to the games and having a lot of fun in the games. But this isn't a game that, I think also this game does not feel like it's in the Pokemon universe. This game just looks like any other video game biome. It's trees and it's mountain and it's water. That's it.
Except
and then
bad.
it has Pokemon, right? But
except bad.
Dusty, dude, you broke me. Like, I missed half of what you just said because I just can't get over Quaxley.
I know. Look at him. Can you even see that? It's insane. I'd never noticed that before.
And we didn't pause it here purposefully.
No, I paused it to make a point, and then, but yeah, and it's not. Again, I'm not trying to be. Listen, a perk is that your mom in this game is a baddie. But we can keep going.
No, he's right though. The characters and the models look good. I agree.
No, I didn't say that. I said the mom is
good.
No, I don't think the characters.
He said the mom's a baddie. The charers look like dolls, and I don't like that.
No, I don't like that.
Well, that's a whole nother topic. I'm talking about the.
I don't think the
quality of their build.
No, I disagree.
I don't know what to even say.
I disagree. I think Sword and Shield, again, the art style of that game, the art style of the characters in that game, the human characters. Are faithful.
I agree with you 100%.
The
I'm not saying
established Pokemon style that was has been developed since the beginning with the Sugimori art, right? It's like there's a classic, there's like an iconic Pokemon look, right? It's intangible, but it's like a Pokemon look, and that has been carried up through all the generations. And for some reason, they just ripped it out of this game. I think where this game falls flat and fails is that it is attempting to do. It's attempting realism, which I just don't want in Pokemon. I don't want realism.
I agree.
Look at how horrible that looks.
All of this looks like a demo.
It looks so bad.
You know what's crazy too?
Compare this.
I remember.
Yeah.
When I was playing through this, I think at this point in the game, later I would go, oh, this game looks bad. But I don't think I was thinking, oh, this looks horrible when I was playing through this part of the game. But looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, did it really look like this?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is good, but this is a cutscene.
But this isn't even good, though. It's not even good.
Even then, the background is not great. I mean,
no, but see, they blurred it. You see, the glowing...
Yeah,
blur,
but compare that to because I think it's the comparable cutscene here. Compare it to the cutscene where you first see Scorbunny, Grookey, and Sobble, and Sobble's playing in a fountain. I think Grookey's climbing a tree. All this,
yes, dude,
and it is light years better.
It's so weird. I mean, I don't understand game development, but I don't understand how they did that. Like, is it just because the whole game is running in the background still or something?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I think it's that. I think it's something.
the open world is just taking all of its power to.
And I think also, like I said in the beginning, I mean, I get it, right? We are spoiled as Pokemon fans to have a game release every year, more or less, right? We have a plethora of games, right, to play, which is great, and I'm fine with that. And I'm also, I try to be open-minded to, like, you know, fine, we had a gap year, right? There are Pokemon games to play, but yeah, I think these games are rushed. I don't know. They're either rushed or they're not created properly. They're either like a failure of the development, or they just need more time and they don't have enough time.
But for the record, even if they are a failure of the development, I think then that can still be chalked up to rush, because at some point you greenlit a game you probably shouldn't have greenlit yet, you know?
And it's not a reflection of like the people making it. It's more of like it's the operation of like, this is a product, this is a business like anything else, right? It just comes down to like decisions.
And also too with Pokemon especially, well, first I do want to say, at the very beginning of the video I said I only feel like there's only one game where I feel like it was rushed, and this is the one. All the other games that I have an issue with, Let's Go Pikachu and Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, I feel like that was more of an issue of choices than it was the game being rushed. Even if those games were rushed, I still feel like, rushed or not, they would probably stay the same ranking for me. But with Scarlet and Violet, they feel rushed, and I don't know. I feel like with Scarlet and Violet, they pulled an Icarus. You know what I mean? They flew too close to the sun. Sure. You know the story of Icarus, which might be relevant to Gen 10, honestly. But I think Game Freak pulled an Icarus here. They were so excited to get into the open world that they didn't get the time to do it. But I will say, in fairness to Game Freak, because I don't want to slam Game Freak, I'll slam Scarlet and Violet and say it feels like a rush game, but we don't know whose fault that is, because with Pokemon, there's so many different gears, if you will, that are turning. You have, you know, they're having to promote the TCG, the anime's having to do something, spin-off games, merchandise, and then on top of that, you know, you've got Game Freak, the people who are making the game, but then you also have Nintendo, who has a little bit of say in it too, right? Like they can go, you know, for all we know, we don't know that this happened. But for all we know, Game Freak might have told Nintendo, "Hey, we need another year in Scarlet and Violet." And Nintendo might have looked at them and said, "No, we're getting a holiday game in 2022. You're putting out Scarlet and Violet this year." You know, we don't know that happened. I'm not even speculating that did happen, but I'm just saying there are multiple gears. So I don't know who to blame for them being rushed,
I think if anything, it wasn't Nintendo, but actually the Pokemon Company, who is a whole nother thing. Because Game Freak is part of the Pokemon Company, but then the Pokemon Company is over all of that. Nintendo actually has had a track record of delaying games that don't look good, and like Metroid Prime 4.
The Kingdom got relayed, didn't it?
I think it did get delayed, and it did. And Metroid Prime 4 has been delayed like 20 times because it's just they're like, that's not up to our quality. And Nintendo always makes quality things. So it's like, you know, I don't know if it actually was Nintendo. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I want to push back on like what you guys were saying. I feel like a year of extra time is good to me. Like that, I'm fine with not getting a Pokemon game every year, like, and just getting like a gap year every now and then. But if it ever becomes Metroid Prime 4, that's my biggest fear. Like, that's why
people always say like we only need a game every like just give.
Can you explain that? What's the deal with Metroid Prime 4? Because I just
push back against it. It's just like it was announced
at the beginning of the Switch.
When the Switch came out, it was like, oh, we're doing Metroid.
Still isn't out.
No,
still isn't out. So I'm saying like that many years.
We complain about Legends
that many years. Waiting that many years for it, and that's my fear. That's why I don't push them in the direction of like, oh yeah, take your time, because then they're gonna take their time and we're gonna be sitting here like crying. And to me personally,
but I also think
I still loved these games though. I gotta say I still love these games, and the biggest thing
they're number 3 for me.
Yeah, the biggest thing with
That's
these
mid.
games were the bugs. The biggest things were the bugs, though. So, like, if there were no bugs in this game, people would complain about the graphics for sure.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't have such a hard time with it. They'd still be like, these are great games. And it's just the bugs.
I don't
that
think it's-
really
yeah.
dragged it
No, I don't
down.
think it's
I don't think it's the
just
bugs. I think it's the performance in the presentation of the game. I think that's what it comes
Well,
down
that's
to.
what I mean, though. Performance, the performance of
yeah.
like how it works.
But that matters.
I know,
though.
like,
that matters. I think
it
that
does.
matters.
It matters
It's not.
a lot.
It's. There's a difference between the quality of this game and not enjoying it because it breaks immersion, and then criticizing Sword and Shield because there's a version of a tree in that game that looks low poly count. Right. I think the difference is that this game, the problems of Scarlet and Violet affect the way you play the game and experience
God,
the
it
world.
looks so bad.
Right.
I know. I agree. I agree.
Where that
100%.
tree
I'm
in
just saying
Sword and
that
Shield don't matter. That only matters in a Twitter thread. That only matters in an inflammatory YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, I love that you have, as we've been talking about these, had like little things playing because like you're validifying my opinions on it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here thinking, you've played Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. You've played like on the screen,
Yep.
Sword and Shield, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and aside from Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, this looks the worst.
It looks horrible, dude. It looks
really
so
looks
bad.
I don't know what version this guy is playing, but it's bad.
This guy might have his hands on like a beta version because I
It's
do not remember
really-
it looking.
I don't
this
remember
bad.
it being this bad.
Right.
My guy Armin just like
the first
ran in
version,
there.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be like.
And I'm kind of noticing because like, Soul, you said, and a lot of people say this. They say Legends Arceus is like muddy, and I can kind of see the similarity of like that game and this game. But I think the difference with Legends Arceus is that it's still cinematic. It's still stealing this from Jake Steinberg. It's authorly, right? It feels like you can see the director behind whatever you're seeing, right? Like when you go into a battle, there's all of a sudden they say, "Oh, what if a black bar comes up and down from the bottom and top, so it looks like you're watching a cinematic moment," right? There's nothing like that in this game. There's nothing stylistic about this game.
Yes, stylistic, I agree, but I also think that Scarlet and Violet improved on the things that Sword and Shield had issues with, which was the story and the routes. So, like, I really think that their story, the plot of this game, was great. I think that they really did a great job with all of that.
Arguably the best Pokemon story.
And the whole, like, you have 3 different things that you need to do. Like, they tried to make it... there's issues with it too, where it could be like those could have been side quests, and this game was crying for side quests.
Yeah.
But
so
like,
for listeners, so you're saying, like you boot up the game, and the main quest is obviously to like get all the gym badges, like any other Pokemon game, except because it's an open world. You also in tandem at any rate, you can also go down the quote unquote evil team or battle, right? You can go down the path of fighting all the essentially the raid Pokemon, right? The Titans, right? So that's 3 different pathways. That's 3 different like missions or story modes that you can do, which is actually really, really cool. Okay.
It is.
It was.
How about we give this game its flowers? Can we do that?
Wait. Before
Okay,
you
okay.
do though, I want to, because it's relevant to what you're saying. I do think you were talking about how like the overall theme with the Switch is like limiting, how I can play the game. And I do hate that they had the audacity to advertise to me that I can do any of it in any order.
Yeah.
But
right.
But it's literally like, you can't,
No.
Yeah, you can start at the 8th. You can start at the 8th gym if you want, but like they're going to be level 50 where you have, a level 10 Fuecoco. And then, if you work your way there, eventually you'll be taking on a level 12 Nimble with your, level 50 Skeletor.
That was the worst part about these games, was no level scaling was
None.
so bad.
And not only is there no level scaling, but they had the audacity to like advertise, to use as a push for this game that you can take on the gyms in any order. Like, not really. Like, I guess technically I can, but like,
but it's not fulfilling. Yeah, it's not. It's not.
No,
yeah.
there's no point. There's
no point in
to
doing
it
that
way.
because you're not. And I think that's what it comes down to. You're not rewarded. There's no point in going out of order.
No,
An
not at all.
ideal
It's-
that's
ideal
with all of
game
them.
would be is
Star
that
bases.
everything scales with you. And here's the thing.
Yeah, That's
if
a
we
huge
talk about-
topic, the whole level scaling thing.
If we talk about Gen 10 and what we want to see in future games, I think that
Well, they have to.
I think a lot of these problems are things that we absolutely could see, right? Yeah.
Oh,
So
definitely. And I do think in a lot of these situations, I think that Pokemon was listening to feedback on things. I feel like this is how I kind of feel with Pokemon. Y'all know those old cartoons like Tom and Jerry and stuff where like they'll be on a boat and the boat starts leaking water, and so Tom will like plug one of the holes, but then it spouts in another place. So then he plugs that hole, and now it's and like eventually, this cat is like having to plug like 16 holes with his
All of
fingers,
his
and all,
fingers.
like it's like just impossible to, and then eventually the boat explodes.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That is how I feel like Pokemon's doing. Like, I feel like they're going, oh, okay, people have a problem with this. Boom, we got it. Oh, okay. But because we focus so much on this problem, we didn't focus at all on this problem. Now we gotta stop that problem. Oh, well, now there's a problem up here. And I feel like they're playing that game,
Yeah. No, totally. No, I agree. I think, like, man, I don't know. Sometimes I catch myself playing this game, and I'll be soaring, and I'm like, did I glitch out? Like, I literally will like not sure if I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm like near the ocean or if the game just like disappeared, the world disappeared underneath me.
And also, does yours do this thing? Mine mainly does it in the Blueberry Academy, but where like so I'll be running, right? And then it'll like pause and then like go really, really fast. Like it's like the game having to catch up with itself. It's
Discord does that. So okay.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of really good things that this game does. I think
there is.
The fact that it's open world is great, right? I think that is cool.
Just then the world glitched, by the way.
I did see that, yeah.
On the video.
And I think the open world is satisfying in general because I have always thought Pokemon games kind of scratched that itch, even on Game Boy, of an open world game. It was always a sandbox that you could go into and explore. Obviously, throughout the game, it's not a traditional open world where you can go out of order. There were times in Pokemon games where you could go out of order, which was kind of a nice cherry on top. But I think when you beat the game, the whole thing is open to you. You have all your HMs. You can do whatever you want, right? And I think this this feels faithful to that. In post game, it is actually like okay. When I do go back to Scarlet Sword and Shield, I am a little disappointed, like what we're saying, where I'm like, it would be nice to be able to go to over here or over here. These are all the things that I can see. Why can't I go to them? I think in this game, if it's promising open world, I don't think it reaches its potential. But I think the idea of an open world Pokemon game is still fun. In post game, it's awesome to be able to hit a location, mark a location on my map, and then travel over there, right, and encounter all these different Pokemon along the way.
The only thing is, I with everything that I said about Legends Arceus applies to here as well with the open world. Like, there's so much more that they could do, open world wise. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Like,
they fixed it a little bit with Kitakami and
yes, I agree, but they were smaller though. They were much smaller.
Exactly, but like in base Paldea, the only areas that like kind of stand out to me are like the desert, that little fall trail. I think it's called like Sakurat Trail or something like that.
Sure.
And then the bamboo forest area in like the top right of the map.
Those are the only locations that are like fantastical. Right. Yeah.
But everything else feels the same to me.
I have I'm looking at this,
the snowy mountain doesn't feel like anything. No. It just feels like the same area elsewhere, just now it's colored white,
I totally agree. I'm watching the gameplay and I think I know where I am now because of what it's showing, but right here, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I couldn't tell you at all where I am on the map. All I see is grass and a cliff and clouds. That's it.
They just needed more variety.
That guy who's gotten famous on like TikTok or whatever for being able to, you can like take a picture anywhere and he can like pinpoint the exact location.
I don't know that, but there is
Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it with Scarlet and Violet.
No, I don't think anyone could. It makes no sense. So to also continue to give this thing its proper flowers, if we are considering the Pokemon, I do think that the Pokemon in this game feel unique and feel like a departure. Like I give it credit for introducing a lot of unique.
Actually.
You don't like a departure in Pokemon style?
I do not.
No.
Oh my gosh. So I like these Pokemon now. Looking back at them, I do like a lot of them. I think that there's a good bunch of them that I really love. But there's some that are so out there that I'm just like, this is so not it. Like the starters. People will know that I don't like the starters. I really do not like any of these starters. Fuecoco's like the only one. They're just too... That you compare them to Gen 2 starters and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah. But
Gen
also
2
you
Gen
can
3 starters?
you can transfer
What's
in
going
the Gen 2 starters.
Yeah, I think
I'm
some
just
of the
saying,
designs.
like, comparatively design-wise, like, the designs, what Lumi's about to say, I think, is that there's just some that are just wacky. And that's
Yeah,
the
but
art
that's
style.
They're a little
I think that's good. I
Yeah.
like wacky.
jarring.
I don't.
Even
I
Palafin is
kinda
growing
do.
on me.
I think it's just, Soul and I might be coming from a place of bias too, because, he said it earlier and I agree with him 100%. Gen 8 had like some killer designs, and Gen 7 had some killer designs. So then
Those
to
are
kind of
two
go
of
to
the
Gen
best.
9, and it was like, ooh, this is, like, some of them just, I don't know. I think I remember describing, and they don't feel this way to me anymore because I'm used to them, but I think I do remember describing them as looking like toys when
Sure.
I first saw them, a lot of them. Like, I'm a big Low Kicks fan, but I remember thinking he looked a little too toy-like.
Sure.
If that makes sense. I hope that's a, like, good way to describe how I'm seeing them.
Yeah, you're looking at it more, maybe less like a Pokemon and more like a creature or
Not even a creature, but like a thing,
Cartoon.
cartoon.
Yeah.
I don't
yeah.
even know, like a
I don't
bubbly,
know.
wacky cartoon.
And
Like,
then, of course, we've on this show
Folding,
been very critical of things like Palmy, where, like, just feels a bit lazy, the evolution of it all. Like, Palmy's a good design on its own.
No, I think
but,
that's
like,
fair.
dude, to turn that Mon into a 3-stage line, come on, bro.
Yeah, for fear of this turning into an hour-long discussion about the Gen 9
Yeah, no,
Pokemon,
we just
because
touched on it.
we can
That's
do
it.
that, and there are full
yeah.
tier list videos about that. Let's just maybe shelf that.
And there's more coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I think also, I guess what I'm thinking is, like, I like the introduction of these convergent Pokemon, right? That's interesting. That's a unique take on what a Pokemon could be.
we just needed more.
Well, we could
little.
get them in the future. It's just an introduction of an idea. I think also the Paradox Pokemon are super cool, right? And that whole...
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're talking about Paldea, if we're talking about Scarlet and Violet, you got the open world. You have all these different these pathways that you can take on your journey. And then all roads lead to Area Zero.
Rome.
Which is so cool, right?
Not
Area
Rome.
Zero is really great. I think this game... Yeah, I think
Area
Area
Zero
Zero
is
is really
cool.
cool. There's so many mysteries.
Area Zero is cool. Now to knock it though, I mean, to advertise in the DLC that you're gonna explore Area Zero, and they kind of did like next to nothing with it, really.
Yeah,
That was a bit of a bummer.
sure.
Yeah. No, but I agree.
I think it was a really cool
The
place
DLC
to
was really
explore.
good too. Just gonna say, I do think the DLC was really good.
I
know
like
Lumi
Teal
did,
Mask. Did
yeah.
not like Indigo Disc at all.
I don't know how you can say that really though. Like, okay, just the main little plot of it, but like the whole Blueberry Academy and everything you can do in there and the biomes, I thought it was interesting and cool. Like that's
I
what I'm
did
saying.
too.
Like it's very much more like we're talking about the whole open world thing to have different areas that you can distinguish. The biomes did that pretty well.
Oh, I totally agree.
I mean, I like the biomes. The thing is, my game personally, I get that there are people who say they don't have this
Yeah, I know.
problem. And
I've never had it.
fantastic for you. My game runs very badly, and
because you have the first Switch. Am
Look,
I
man,
right?
I'm begging you. Yeah, I do have the first Switch,
Yeah,
but it
the
doesn't
first
matter.
Switch.
But it doesn't matter.
yeah, that should
Your
It
game
does,
you shouldn't
though.
have that
Properly.
experience.
Properly.
I didn't have an OLED. I didn't have a problem with the OLED like at all. The only
I've never had an
Kami,
issue
I
with
had
OLED.
some problems, but that was it.
But see, that's what I'm saying is I should not have to purchase a different console
Another
when the
form,
game
yeah.
is supposed to run on my current console.
Sure.
Like,
It's hard to say that though. It's just like because they put more the old Switch can't
look at that
handle
Don
what they-
Dozo tail in the ground. Did
I
you
know,
see
but
that?
You know what I'm saying? They put more. The old Switch cannot handle what they put into the newer like updates and DLC.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They do not advertise it as a Switch game.
Yeah.
You need to you need to be upfront with
That
your
is
audience
still
and
a
let them know,
problem.
hey, if you play this on a base Switch, this game's gonna suck.
Yeah, I agree
They
with
could have
Lumi.
said that. They could have said that.
Because it's
but
like
they
that's not
should've been
Lumi's
better.
fault that the game doesn't run
Right.
properly. It's their
Right.
part. Anyways, again,
And also, dude,
I want
this
to
game
pivot.
came out. This game came out in 2022. I was 21 years old when it came out. I do not have the money to buy a whole freaking new console plus your $60 game.
No, I agree, man. I agree. I think I'm thinking right now, and I think with Area Zero and all these other areas that you can traverse, especially in the DLC, I think this game actually, even the caves, I think while there's not a lot to do in the open world game, there still is a huge sense of exploration that is missing from Sword and Shield, right? That's missing from Let's Go and BDSP.
Well, I don't think Sword and Shield was trying to do this though.
Well, and I think Sword and Shield did add it with especially the Crown Tundra, but I would
that's
even
true. That's true.
argue
Yeah.
a little bit with Isle of Armor.
Yeah, no, no, that's a good point. I'm thinking about the main routes that you were discussing, right? The main routes
those
being very linear.
Not great.
Even the wild area, there's nothing to discover in the wild area other than strong
agree,
Pokemon, but you can't even capture the strong Pokemon until you're at a certain level. So I think going this deep into the core of Paldea was honestly so special, and that whole era,
agree.
that like the whole 8 months after this game came out, people were obsessed with Paradox Pokemon, you know?
Yeah.
The concept was so cool. I think the DLC also, what I really like about the DLC is kind of the subject of them. I like that, maybe not mechanically. Like, I think mechanically, they're just additional stories on top of the main story, which is fine. But I think my mind goes crazy when I realize that we are, in an area of Unova that we haven't visited before. We're in the land of Hidekami,
Those were cool. Yeah.
right? Which is
things like that are cool.
and it's so cool that they brought back, in a similar way to the ancestors of Legends Arceus, we get to meet the children of some of the Unova characters. Like, I think that stuff is a lot of fun. And to get to see,
Terrastol was kind of cool too. Very good for the competitive scene.
Terrastol is such a fun gimmick to play with. Dusty, do you have your Twitter pulled up by chance? Because I just sent you a meme that perfectly sums up how I feel about the Terrastol phenomenon. I love it competitively. It is so fun competitively, best gimmick competitively, but also like, look at this.
Yeah, I know we needed forms. That would have been nice.
Like so the meme says, because it's not really showing it here, but it says like Pokemon says, oh, your Pokemon will shine and glimmer like gems thanks to the Terrastol phenomenon. And so your expectation is like these beautiful like crystalline Crawdonts and stuff, but it's basically just Persian with a ring pop on it.
Yeah,
It's hilarious, bro.
it's true, man. It's true.
far away.
Lumi, you and I I remember doing a couple like long discussion podcasts on your channel right before the launch, and we were like, it's gonna be this, and it's gonna be this, and it's gonna be this, and it ended up being a Persian with a ring pop on its head.
Yeah.
But
I'm not saying visually. I'm just saying how the mechanic itself was fun.
Yeah, the mechanic itself was so much fun. I just, I feel like a lot of Scarlet and Violet feels like almost false advertising. Like, I feel like there was so much stuff that I was excited to do, and then it let me down. I was so excited to explore more of Area Zero and the DLC, and, you didn't really. Like, they even, like, kind of gaslit us into believing that there was, like, this really special tree down there. That was nothing.
I know. Right? I think I was gonna hype up the raids a little bit more. I do think the raids are a core feature of Pokemon going forward in the Switch era. We saw it initially.
They also gone to run a lot better.
They do.
In this game.
They look a lot worse, I think. But yeah, they do run a lot better.
But the whole game does, so.
Yeah, I know. And I don't think they look as cool as the Gigantamax forms. You kind of see that, like, in the Crystal Caves, that the Pokemon is reflected much bigger. So there's an image of the Pokemon that's much bigger than how big that Pokemon actually is, which is kind of cool. But I think they're trying to almost imitate what the Gigantamax forms were. Yeah, I don't know. So overall, and I think, I don't know. I think actually, can we thank our sponsors before maybe going into closing thoughts? What was it, Soul? What were you gonna say, Soul?
I was just gonna say, like, overall, I think that these games while buggy and not really good looking, were fun. I think that they were really fun and really had a good story, so it kept you engaged. And there was really good Pokemon. Like the Pokemon looked really good. As someone that loves Pokemon and loves battling, like all of that was good enough for me to put it just like slightly over Legends Arceus, just because it's still a classic. If you want Pokemon, this is classic Pokemon with a good story. And the DLC only improved it for me. So like all of that still makes it good enough. It's just performance. The performance was just poor, and that's it. Like you said, Lumi, a lot of good ideas just executed poorly again.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff I think about these games now, I didn't think when I was first playing them. It's now, having had some time and having been picking it back up for, battling people or doing like the Rayquaza raid that we had and stuff like that. Doing those things, like picking it back up, it's only then that like I'm starting to realize like this runs even worse than I thought it did. Or like when we were watching that video earlier when it was showing the trainer pick his starters, and I was sitting there thinking, I do not remember it looking this bad. Like I knew it wasn't.
I mean, it might be the guy that we're watching too. I don't know if it's like
maybe, but
no, I agree with you. I do agree with you.
And I do think
it looks
you were
worse
talking
than
about the Pokemon looking good, and I want to, on that note, say that one thing I really did appreciate about this game is that they have like different models for the Pokemon, like where Heracross.
They actually improved the models. The Pokemon.
He'll like be standing, but you can also, if you send him out over water, he's flying. Like you can see his wings out flying.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's a small thing.
When I use Salamence is a heavy Pokemon and isn't floating. It's like actually
they fixed
showing its
posing flying Pokemon.
Salamence shows its weight and its strength. Yeah.
All of that being said, I don't know how these games will be remembered. Like, like how there's the whole typical, because right now we're in this generation. We're in this generation. Yeah, there's the cycle of like you hate it and then eventually people like love it and all that. I don't know how well it will be remembered even then because of how poorly it kind of ran.
Based on my experience,
I think a lot of it will depend on Gen 10 too.
Yes, now. I think whatever we get with Gen 10, once we're in Gen 10, this is what happens. This is why we're favoring Sword and Shield right now, right? Once we enter Gen 10 and we can enjoy that
compare
game,
it to that kind
then
of thing.
you can look at Gen 9 and just accept it for what it was, because we're out of the frustration of the limitations that we currently have, right? Like, I think, like everything,
I just don't know if
Dexit isn't an issue right now.
Yeah, I just feel like it might go down as like one of their, not a failure, but like one of the games that wasn't their best.
You know what?
Like Unova. Like Unova, even though people have kind of gotten this renewed love for it, people do like, it's just acknowledged that
it is the worst.
That was not a great performing game, like, well, and even people are like, oh, I like it now. I do remember being livid that like it was a bunch of new Pokemon, no old Pokemon.
I was mad.
One of them was an ice cream cone,
Yeah. But I like the trash can, for the record. Dude, this is honestly so sick with the AI Turo. It's actually incredible.
Yeah, that was cool.
Whoa, where's his hand? Where's his hand? Is it in his pocket? Okay.
Yeah. It's actually
I was about
insane.
to say, is his hand missing? You gotta be kidding me. That would, if his hand was missing, there'd just no, like,
I
no
just thought that this guy was
just in the
he's playing
zero.
on an emulator. That's what it is. He's playing on an emulated version.
No, his hand's in his pocket, I think.